Hello, I'm Christopher Gajewski of Axiom Orthodontic Studios. First, I would just like to invite you to click and follow along. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying it or getting anything out of it. If you've been here more than once or twice, click the follow or subscribe button, or I forget exactly what it is. But today's video is a tangent off of last week's video, If It Ain't Broke, Don't Fix It. I'm going to talk about variations on appliances, variations on Hawleys, and in particular, fix low or expanders, which is variation is the spice of life. That's why I'm wearing my shirt, University of Miami, when everybody that I know went to Penn State. My stepfather is still upset about it. It's a football rivalry thing. But then, anyway, when I first started out at my uncle's lab a long time ago down in Maryland, the standard was this. If a doctor sent in a script that just said upper, lower, or Hawleys, which we still get a lot of, it would be a labial bow 3-3 made of 032-watt wire, then Adams class on the sixes. For the lower, it was a little bit different, but I would say that that was 80 to 90% of our cases. Then when I moved up here and started to work at a lab that I would eventually buy, the standard completely changed. 80 to 90% of our standards were labial bow 3-3 and a reverse C class soldered onto the bow for the fours. And that worked because a lot of doctors liked it because there was only the 2 points of contact. So there's only 2 points of contact where the patient can bite down on, 2 points of contact where you have that weakest point of crossing over the occlusion and that bend. Some doctors I got on board because they liked the design, but they were afraid of it breaking. It doesn't have to break. Dr. Paddy Werther one time sent me a solder joint repair of a patient who had had it for 18 years. So I offered to make the patient a new one just because they had had it for so long. And the patient was like, no, 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 no. So it does last. But we did encounter breakages. The solder joints and at certain points, about, I'd say like 3 or 4 a week, but that's out of a lot. So I was doing the repairs for free, and that would annoy me because, well, I mean, it would waste the doctor's time, the patient's time, and my time. And I always wondered if there was a way that I could fix it. So I went out and I found a way that I could. I switched from using the stainless steel wire to chromium cobalt. It was a bit more expensive, but it doesn't break. So after starting to make them with that kind of wire, I saw a drastic reduction in breakages, but the solder joints were still popping. So I looked for a solution for that, because if the solder joints pop, it's really for one of two reasons. One, in the rare case, the kid has, or the patient has, a highly acidic mouth that just wears away at the solder. But most of the time, they were soaking them in the denture cleaner, which I always warned against. And the doctor and the patient always said that they didn't soak it, but you can tell. I can tell after all this time. But when I introduced laser welding, so the laser welding and the chromium cobalt, I started offering a lifetime guarantee that they would not break. But that leads me into fixed lower expanders. The standard that I've seen both in Pennsylvania and in the DC area is the mini screw soldered to bands on the sixes. But what I found interesting is that when I went out to the West Coast, the standard changed. The standard was actually the E-arch, which this is a picture of. It's basically a lower lingual arch with a straight wire, and it's spring loaded. So you don't have to worry as much about patient compliance. If you would like to check one out, contact me. As I say in my onboarding, if you onboard, the first appliance is free. I would be more than happy to stop by and show you samples of the custom made or the 3D printed bands, and the value it can add to your office. And variation on appliances can also add value to your office. Like, we tend to get stuck in our ways. If something's broke, if something ain't broke, don't fix it. But there might be a better way of doing things. 3D printed bands are a better way of doing things. The Hawley with the chromium cobalt wire and the lasers or welded joints could be a better way of doing things than the labial bow in the Adams class. The E-arch might be a better way of doing things than the lower expander. Talk to your lab person, because there's a chance that they've encountered a lot of different variations on what the standards are. And to my stepfather, Rich, I still have no regrets about going to the University of Miami. Hey, I was in Miami in the 90s in college. I mean, come on. But that's the video for the day. And like I said, subscribe. And I'll see you in a few more days. Talk to you soon. Have a good one. Have a good week. Aloha.